What if somebody did something similar to this on purpose and they bought aircraft insurance just to get an insurance claim payout and make money on their aircraft? How easily could they get away with it? Or what would happen to them if they were investigated and it was found out that they had put in a fraudulent claim? Well, it's Caleb here from Air 101 and we're gonna talk about it. Okay, I just made this video about Trevor Jacob on the insurance aspect of him crashing his Taylor craft. And to be honest, I was so shocked how many people ended up watching that video. All these people took time out of their busy day just to watch an insurance video. So first of all, thank you for the support and watching that video. In saying that, I ended up getting this one comment that said this. I didn't hear the one thing I thought of when I saw the title of the video: insurance fraud. If accident stage and claim filed, obviously. To be honest, I was a little bit hurt. I wasn't trying to lure an unsuspecting individual to watch an insurance video if they weren't going to get the answer that they came for. So then I thought about it and I wanted to get back a really good answer to them so that I wouldn't end up having to make another video on insurance fraud. So here is what I said. Thank you for the comment. I did a lot of research on insurance fraud and I plan on doing another video about it. But the thing is, I don't even know if he had insurance. And if he did have insurance, he probably wouldn't try to put in a claim at this point because it would make things even worse for him. You are not allowed to tamper with an aircraft after an accident, or your insurance coverage would most likely be denied. And if he did try to do insurance fraud and was found out, he could possibly receive the following. A false insurance claim can lead to jail, substantial fines, and a permanent criminal record. At this point, I thought that was the perfect response and I totally answered the individual's question. But apparently not, because this is what they said. At Air 101, I get it, but who knows? He apparently thought everyone would believe this was an accident. He was ignorant to claim he always wears a parachute when he flies. What? He didn't think anyone would fact check him and see he never did? So I thought to myself, this person is not technically wrong and they definitely make a valid point. You never know, maybe he did have aircraft insurance and he purposely crashed the aircraft so that he could get a payout in the event of a claim. So at that point, I went and did a lot of research on insurance fraud. Now, I don't live in California, but I wanted to put together this video to show all the things that an individual could face if they tried to commit insurance fraud in the state of California. So I wanted to talk about how an individual could possibly think they could get away with doing insurance fraud with regards to aircraft insurance. And I wanted to take that and relate it to this Trevor Jacob situation. And if you stay to the end of this video, I'm going to talk about one of the biggest things that people do on their aircraft insurance that could possibly cause a fraudulent claim. I have been doing aviation insurance for 10 plus years, and I've seen some situations that are very questionable where it looked like an individual had purposely damaged their aircraft so that they could get a hull claim paid out for their aircraft. In most cases, they try to damage their aircraft to the point that it would be written off. And in a majority of these situations that I've seen, the claim ends up getting paid out. Why? Because it is hard for the insurance company to have a strong enough case to prove that it was fraud. And the hull values were low enough that it wasn't worth the aviation insurance company hiring lawyers to fight it out in court. But now you may think to yourself, why go through the whole process of committing an insurance fraud instead of just trying to sell your aircraft? Because in some situations, you could possibly end up getting paid out more than what your aircraft is really worth. How is this possible? Now, here is the thing that every aircraft owner should know about when buying aviation insurance. Aviation insurance is done on an agreed value basis. Well, what does that mean? Let's say out there was a similar situation to the Trevor Jacob situation where a person owned a Taylor craft. Now imagine this individual's Taylor craft was worth $20,000 US. When the individual did the aircraft insurance application, they convinced the aviation insurance broker that this was the most beautiful Taylor craft out there, that it was in fantastic condition, and it really was worth $50,000 US. Now, if the insurance company agrees to this value and decides to insure that aircraft, then the policy will state that the aircraft value is $50,000 US. Now, one day, that person gets a brilliant idea to go for a flight. But this day is different. This day, this individual is wearing a parachute. And while they're flying their aircraft, they have an engine failure. But no problem, they have that parachute. So they decide to jump out of their aircraft and let their aircraft fly into a mountain and completely destroy itself. Now, somehow they convinced the insurance company that it wasn't gross negligence with them jumping out of the aircraft at such a high altitude instead of easily finding a landing spot to land the aircraft. Then the insurance company, because it's a write-off, would have to pay out $50,000 less the deductible. Now, that aircraft owner that crashed that Taylor craft would now have doubled their money plus some. This is how easy committing insurance fraud could happen with aircraft insurance. We can see this with a clear example of Theodore Robert III. It was about an individual who committed insurance fraud, and I put the link to the article in the notes section below. This article says he destroyed cars, yachts, and planes over the years and put in fraudulent claims. For example, in March 2012, TR bought a 1966 Beechcraft Baron, the plane that later ended up in the Gulf of Mexico. The aircraft was worth $46,000, but then he insured it for $85,000. It is not unusual for companies to insure aircraft for greater sums than they are bought for. Values vary greatly by make and model. After attending training that included water landing instruction, TR departed the Baytown Airport with Fosdick. Then the alleged mechanical failure occurred and the pair ditched the plane in the Gulf of Mexico. TR got the insurance money. When we look in this situation, and you'll definitely enjoy reading that article, the individual almost doubled their money when they put in this fraudulent claim. In the end, he ended up getting caught and he had to deal with all the aftermath of everything that he had done by doing these fraudulent claims. Now, I'm not trying to discuss all this just to show how easy it is to commit insurance fraud, but instead I'm really trying to drive home the point that aviation insurance is really done on a trust basis between an aircraft owner and the aviation insurance company, and coming up with a number so that the aircraft owner can really insure their aircraft for what it is worth, not more or less. Now, with the aircraft that Trevor Jacob was flying, in one video it talks about that there was rust on the struts of the Taylorcraft and that it looked a little beat up. But the thing is this, how does the aviation insurance company know that when you're applying for your aircraft insurance and you're only filling out all this information on a piece of paper? In most cases, the aircraft owner is not going to be sending in a photo of their aircraft to the aviation insurance company. This is what makes it all so difficult. So please, if you are applying for aircraft insurance, don't take advantage of the aviation insurance company by trying to overvalue your aircraft. Because if you do this and then you end up having a claim and you get a payout for more money than your aircraft is worth, then at that time you possibly have committed insurance fraud because you put forth a fraudulent claim. Now let's look on the flip side and say that a person tried to put an insurance claim knowing that they purposely crashed their aircraft, and that the situation was not only proven that this individual tried to purposely crash their aircraft by the aviation insurance company, it was also proven by the NTSB that they had done this. If they had done all of these things, then the consequences can be really, really bad. First of all, in my other video, I talked about some of the consequences that an individual could face if they crash an aircraft on purpose, such as removal of their pilot's license, fines, etc. But with regards to insurance fraud in the state of California, here is some of the things that an individual could face. Insurance fraud prosecuted as a misdemeanor in California may result in a sentence of up to 1 year in county jail, a fine up to $10,000, or both. In general, insurance fraud prosecuted as a felony can result in a term of imprisonment for 2, 3, or 5 years. A California state court may also impose a fine in an amount up to $50,000, or double the value of the defrauded amount, with the court choosing the greater of the two amounts. For many types of insurance fraud, a previous felony conviction for insurance fraud may result in a sentencing enhancement that adds 2 years for each prior offense to the defendant's term of imprisonment. There are more, but these are just the main ones. So it really depends on the situation and what is being considered if Trevor Jacob did buy aircraft insurance and tried to put in a fraudulent claim. These are very serious punishments, which shows how serious committing insurance fraud really is. It is interesting to note that every year in the US, there is about $80 billion lost annually from fraudulent claims, and in Canada it is roughly $1 billion a year. How do people usually commit insurance fraud? Fraud cases can usually include one or more of the following elements: padding insurance claims or inflating a genuine claim, falsifying facts on an insurance application, submitting claims for damage or injuries that never happened, services never provided, or equipment never delivered, staging accidents. It is funny to note the last one is staging accidents. When you stage an aircraft accident, it no longer becomes an aircraft accident, but instead a crash that was done on purpose. Well, if Trevor Jacob did stage this accident and purposely crash the aircraft and try and put in a claim to get a payout, then in this situation, it would be a fraudulent claim. What can you and I learn from this then? Number 1, don't stage an aircraft crash and then try and call it an accident. Number 2, if you are purposely going to crash your aircraft, don't film it and then put it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I was talking to somebody the other day and they told me that supposedly there's a Transport Canada representative in each of the aviation Facebook groups across Canada. So if you end up doing something that you're not supposed to be doing and you videotape it and put it on one of those Facebook groups, it's gonna most likely be seen from a Transport Canada representative and you can end up possibly getting yourself in trouble. Now, I personally can't verify whether this is true or not, but it's interesting how much these things are being watched. I'm honestly really curious to see how this Trevor Jacobs situation plays out over the next year or so. So now you made it to the end of this video, so congrats for sticking around, and you're about to learn something that is one of the biggest mistakes people do when filling out their aircraft insurance that could possibly lead to having a fraudulent claim. If you are a pilot and you're buying an aircraft, when you apply for insurance, make sure that you fill out the claim section correctly. If the application says, have you had a claim in the last 5 years, then make sure you answer this question correctly on the application. Now, if you own an aircraft and you had another pilot flying your aircraft and they crashed the aircraft, and now you're applying for insurance again on a new aircraft, well, technically, you were still part of that accident because it was your aircraft that they crashed. So make sure that you put that on the application, unless the application states otherwise. Also, if you had a claim 4 years ago in 360 days, and the aviation insurance application asks you, did you have a claim in the last 5 years? Then make sure that you still put down that claim. In any one of those situations, if an aircraft owner, when applying for insurance, puts down that they did not have a claim, in fact, when they did really have a claim, this is what can happen. Now, if this individual ends up flying their aircraft and they go and crash their aircraft and they put in a claim, and the insurance company, not knowing that they really did have a previous claim, pays out the money to this aircraft owner. Then at this point, this aircraft owner, because they received this money, although they really did have a claim in the last 5 years, technically put in a fraudulent claim and committed insurance fraud. Why? Because they misrepresented the facts when they filled out the aircraft insurance application. I really hope that you learned something today. And to be honest, I don't know if Trevor Jacob bought aircraft insurance or not, or maybe he did buy aircraft insurance and he plans on putting in a fraudulent claim to make money back on the aircraft. I really, honestly, just don't know. But I really wanted to talk about what happens if an individual puts in a fraudulent claim, how it can affect that individual, and also how it can affect the aviation insurance industry, and how it can make a bad situation go to being even worse if a person commits insurance fraud. Now, if you want to learn more about misrepresentation that could cause insurance fraud, then you should watch this video right here. Now, have fun flying your aircraft, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.